new things. Fashion is becoming very fast, and then stationery is a huge contributor to plastic
like
pollution and things.
grocery store using so much plastic.
Mm.
My question to you would be that please go figure it out. Please go figure it out that how can you remove plastic from this supply chain? Is there a better alternative available? For example, today in the packaging space, we have got seaweed packaging, we have got packaging made out of bamboo. How can you implement this? How can you do this at scale? What kind of partnerships, what kind of collaborations you should be doing? So how do you implement and amplify climate solutions which are alternative to plastics would be my way of approaching the problem.
Because nowadays, this digital era, social media platform is one of the most powerful tools. And how can all the influencers that are around the globe now leverage these platforms to sensitize people, change the consumer behavior, especially about the single-use plastic, because it's everywhere. I mean,
Plastic, we have to stop using plastic, or we have to
yeah,
reduce using plastic, or maybe we have to just let plastic at places where there are no other options available. Maybe in the medical situation, like someone mentioned this to me, that during the World War times, blood was transported from one place to another into these plastic bags. So the ecosystem, it's not like say no to plastic, it's about how do you say no to plastic, how do you amplify that, how do you build a complete ecosystem around it. So like whenever we visit our hill stations, somewhere or the other, it's a guilty pleasure of enjoying noodles there.
hello and welcome everyone to Planet versus Plastics podcast series brought to you by Earth Day Network India. I'm your host Rumit Walia for this insightful journey into a world free from plastic pollution. And today's episode is what where two podcasters will be interacting, and this was called Podcasters versus Plastic. And for this, we have a special guest, Miss Shweta Dalmia, who is the founder of Climapreneur and Bharat Startup. So let's dive into this episode. But before we dive in, here's a quick reminder. The views expressed here are for general informational purposes, and we encourage you to do your own research. We're here to spark ideas, inspire change, and navigate the complexities of plastic pollution. So, everyone, please welcome Miss Shweta, who is also a podcaster for this special episode. So, Shweta, welcome. Why don't you share something about yourself, since you're also a very dynamic podcaster, and how much interest do you have in environmental issues?
So first of all, thank you, Romit, for inviting me, and thank you for taking this initiative. Like I have seen some of your, clips on Instagram, and they genuinely looked great. So first of all, thank you for that. And
Thank you.
yes, I have been doing podcasting for quite some while now. And like what we share is we share climate solutions, and my primary interest is in that how can climate empower people, a to live a better life, b to put food on their table. Like there are still so many people in India who
Yeah.
are sleeping empty stomach. There are still so many people who are not able to live a good life. So can climate really give them the opportunities to do something better while empowering the planet as well? So this is what brings me to climate, like matching India's hopes and aspirations to climate action. And yes, that is what I do, and this is about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I love that empowering people basically through this sensitization of climate. And I have been fan of your podcast.
Ha
I've been
ha
following
ha.
you. I don't know since when. Quite a fan base you have. And recently when we met in those events, so it's good to see that all you influencers and podcasters and then scientific community. I heard in a conference somebody was saying this, and it truly touched me as well, that not every scientist is a good communicator, a science communicator, and not every science communicator is a very good scientist. So I think a collaboration of all these people is
True.
what really the need of the hour. So my next question, Shweta, would be that is it I mean, it is very obvious that in nowadays this digital era, social media platform is one of the most powerful tool,
Right.
and a dangerous one as well, the
Right.
most dangerous tool that anyone can utilize. So how can all the influencers that are around the globe, not just in India, not just in Bharat, around the globe, how can they leverage these platforms to sensitize people, change the consumer behavior, especially about the single use plastic, because it's everywhere. I mean, policies are here, and then several efforts are there, civil societies, we are talking about it, but still people are not changing. So how can influencers create an impact, being having a huge fan base? I mean, if you say to thousands of people, they will follow you. So how can they do that?
So, A, like I would like to like differ here a bit. I do not identify myself as an influencer at all. be what you mentioned earlier, that science and communication. So like my journey into climate started with exactly those two things. For me it was very important to first understand that what's going on into the climate space, and that's why I did a master's in climate change. And by
Wow.
definition, by my degree, you can call me like a master's climate scientist, because we studied
Wonderful.
climate modeling and all of those things, like how oceans work and stuff like that. Secondly, so one of my mentors, who was a world-renowned climate scientist, Chris Rapley, and I owe everything I am doing to him. He mentioned this thing to me, that Shweta, climate change and storytelling, and that's when I came into this field. So what, like, whenever I talk to people, one model I always follow it, be it single use plastic, be it any other thing, that if I tell just to you, Rumit, today that hey, please don't do that, you would be
Hmm.
like, yeah, Shweta, what is the alternative? I have to
Yeah.
understand your psychology. For example, today, if you are using, say, anything like any kind of a plastic item, what is the best alternative that is available? Why are you using, for example, that particular solution? Is it expensive for you? Like, is it the cost friendly for you, or is the other alternative expensive for you? So those are the things which I feel should be understood. And when it comes to influencers, a lot of influencers today are here who are practicing sustainable, zero waste, or near to zero waste lifestyles, and they are sharing that journey with the people. But what I see, that why people resonate is because people are sharing their journeys. Like, for example, how did I went from using, say, lots of plastic to less plastic, then to zero plastic. So that's how
Yeah.
people learn. And I think that's where, if you share journeys, if you share your even your failures, there might be like, sometimes, like when you're also using plastic yourself, so why are you using it? So that journey is important, and I think everyone should share that journey. But coming to my part, what I do is I share case studies, I share instances. Okay, for example, if there's a brand out there, why is that particular brand using that solution? How can that solution reach to millions of people tomorrow? If you complain, come and say me that, Shweta, why is, say, this grocery store using so much
Hmm.
plastic? My question to you would be that, please go figure it out. Please go figure it out, that how can you remove plastic from this supply chain? Is there a better alternative available? For example, today in the packaging space, we have got, like, seaweed packaging, we have got packaging made out of bamboo. How can you implement this? How can you do this at scale? What kind of partnerships, what kind of collaborations you should be doing? So how do you implement and amplify climate solutions which are alternative to plastics, would be my way of approaching the problem. Challenge, actually, but I think every influencer, every person has a different way to approach this thing, but that's my take on it.
Amazing, amazing. And I love it's so wise of you to say that you're not an influencer. I mean, this is a world going around, and I'm using that, and I'll keep calling you an influencer. But since you mentioned these case studies have been amazing, so as a podcaster, I mean, how do you see that this new? I mean, not just in video, people are actually listening to these. I've seen
Yes.
people traveling in metro and listening to these, and very carefully. I mean, it's not just they are just doing it for the sake of entertainment. So, how do you see this is becoming a new tool? And addition to that, would you like to share some case studies where you have seen these businesses and the guests that you have invited who are tackling the problem of plastic pollution today?
Okay. So definitely, like I heard this somewhere, that when someone is, playing, say, a podcast, or when someone is playing a long form YouTube content, that is the point when people are actually making a conscious decision of engaging with the content. And that's where they really want that, okay, I really want to understand and learn about it. So definitely podcasts are an emerging tool, and it's doing really good. Second thing was that when you talk about case studies, and both the questions are actually interlinked. So when someone is listening to a podcast, it gives you depth into the situation. I always tell
Mm.
people that it's very and very easy to say that, why don't we remove this? Why don't this today doesn't stop? But it's actually through these in-depth conversations you realize the nitty-gritties. And then you realize, okay, for example, even with plastic, plastic, we have to stop using plastic, or we have to
Yeah,
reduce using plastic, or maybe we have to just let plastic at places where there are no other options available. Maybe in the medical situation, like someone mentioned this to me, that during the World War times, blood was transported from one place to another into these plastic bags.
yeah,
So can we leave that use case today? Like, if it is still being used, let's leave that use case for areas which are really important. So the idea here, like, so sorry, I'm just going here and there, but the
no, that's fine.
idea the idea here is that podcasts really give you that in-depth thing कि, okay, मुझे plastic की supply chain, plastic की life cycle, but this is where I have to work. So do I work on developing alternatives to plastic? Do I help scaling the available alternatives to plastic, or do I work in the plastic recycling ecosystem? So it really helps you understand the entire ecosystem. It's not like say no to plastic. It's about how do you say no to plastic? How do you amplify that? How do you build a complete ecosystem around it? For example, today there are so many startups. Like one of the startups I was reading about, they are using construction and demolition waste along with plastic to create bricks. There was this another
Oh,
startup which we recently covered in Morena, Madhya Pradesh. And so
oh yeah,
what they did was they used stubble waste which otherwise would have burnt, and they created packaging out of it. So one of the case studies here was that, we have this beer brand called Corona, and beer is made out of barley. Out of barley, when you like take the barley out, some waste is left. So otherwise, and what these people did was they converted this waste into the packaging, and that same packaging was used to hold that six bottles or whatever bottles of beer that came
yeah.
into a carton, whatever you call it. The idea is how did this startup work? A, they reduced stubble burning. B, they were creating packaging out of stubble, which even helped reduce or say no to plastic. So
Wow.
podcasts really give you that in-depth insight. They also help you understand the industry. For example, today I want to start my own, say, climate solution startup around plastic. But what are the different kind of stakeholders? Do I need some certifications? What are the kind of investors? When should I look for an investor? Who should I pitch to? For example, another example which I always give into different schools and universities where I'm introducing climate entrepreneurship as a course is of a startup called Infinity Box, one of my favorite startups and favorite solutions. So, we all have been using Zomato and Swiggy. Our food comes into that plastic container. What Shashwat and his team did was, they tied up with these platforms, I think Zomato and Swiggy, and they provided reusable containers for the food. So, for example, if today you are ordering the food, आप toggle button on कर सकते हो. You can be like, okay, I want my food into a reusable container. Your food comes into
Wow.
a reusable container. You eat that food. You place a request back to pick up that container. They pick that container back. The container goes into the cleaning process. Now, someone asked me that, Shweta, oh my God, this is so unhygienic. But whenever we are going into a restaurant, into a cafe, we are using the same plate that's being used by someone else.
True,
So it's just
true.
that mindset shift. So like these are some of the solutions, and that's why I feel that platforms like say podcasting, or maybe people who have got, I don't call them influencers, but I just call them people who have got sufficient amount of people following them, or sufficient amount of people who sort of align with their thought process. If they share about these solutions, they share about the pros and cons, a lot of people would come up and develop and use and amplify these solutions.
That's very right. That's very right. I mean, if all this pro, let's say again, I'm using the word influencers, become a pro planet people, and they share the pros and cons of all the material that we have been using. One day, maybe next day, next days, these people tend to follow the practices that they will be, I mean, showcasing on their platforms.
Right.
So my next question, which is a very one of my favorite question, and I most of the time I ask it to everyone, that nowadays in the social media industry, let's say the short span thing, like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and then everybody is using new things. Fashion is becoming very fast, and then stationery is a huge contributor to plastic
Right.
pollution and things like that. So the influencer market, let's say, or the people who are on Instagram creating some content creation, the packaging, unpackaging, showcasing, it's also contributing a lot to the plastic problem, and they might not be aware of it. So what do you suggest? Let's say if you and I, or Earth the Network and then Climapreneur, have to create a project out of it, how should we go about it, that we tell these people who are influencing lakhs of people that you should change this first, and that's how you create even a larger impact in the world?
So basically, like if I'm understanding the question right, is it about that like a lot of these gift items coming in which are packaged into all this packaging material? Like this is what you.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, we wear different clothes all the time as an
hmm.
influencers in these markets, and then on Instagram, and then we showcase products and we might not even use them. And we pack and unpack. Unboxing is a huge, I mean, YouTube industry. So how do we create an awareness for these people, that you are letting people know? I mean, if a new influencer is coming up, they will also start using plastic. I mean, in a lot of quantity, and they are not recycling it. They are not. And what you also said, I loved your point. Are you a developer developing an idea, innovating an idea? Are you scaling an idea which is already there, or are you recycling it? Any of these three, if you're doing, you're on a right path. But if none of them, there's something wrong with you, honestly.
I think. More than that, it's about consciousness. Like today, I don't know, like matlab, I always feel that living a conscious life does something to you. So like today we all are running, like we all are running in our lives. We have to meet our goals, we have plans, and a lot of times we never like, or sometimes we do like take time whenever we eat our food. How many times are we conscious of what we are eating? How many times are we conscious of that single glass of water that we are drinking? The moment we become
Yeah.
conscious, the moment वो जो एक मतलब I feel that today there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of things like यार मेरे followers उससे कम है, मुझे आगे निकलना है and stuff like that. And I honestly got out of this following follower वाला game a long time back because I understood that this is not like not my forte. But the idea here is that these things will keep on happening. Like a lot of these D2C brands are coming up. If today, as a person who has some say in the industry, I would have to do something, I would talk to these people that okay, the brand who is sending me these products, I understand that your products need to reach to a larger number of audience because that's where you are going to get sales, that's where your product is going to get visibility, and that's how your business is going to grow. But can I suggest him or her like a better packaging option? Can I tell my audience accordingly that okay, see, I am using this product because today maybe I need this product, or maybe because the brand wants me to do that, but please buy it if you need it. So just communicating that, I think, is important.
That's and I love how you're building. I mean, putting this word out in this podcast. I mean, wonderfully. So consciousness and continuing the communication via consciousness is very important.
And
I think I
also,
just got an idea.
one thing which
Yeah.
I have like learned with, like, so I'm not a very avid shopper, but I heard this somewhere that like for example, if you're even on your Instagram, because that's how today algorithm works. If you're thinking about something, that also pops up in
Yeah,
your
that
feed,
pops up everywhere.
So like just keep, if you want to buy something, just wait, like keep it in your basket or cart or whatever you call it, and just wait for like a few hours or maybe a day or so. And if the next day also you feel like okay, you really need it, then probably go forward to it with it. But I feel it with Planet, it also saves a lot of money. So with the we should also invest some money into places where the money grows. It could be any form, like if you invest into gold, you invest into stocks or any other things. In fact, I think investing into green stocks is such a cool trendy thing to do, and that is what makes you cool. I have myself done that, and I have made it profitable there.
Wonderful. And in fact, 2022 and 23 theme for the Earth Day was invest in our planet. So we're
Yes.
encouraging businesses and people to invest in your planet, invest in green economy, circular economy, create an ecosystem where
Mm.
you have everything and you don't have to waste
And
anything.
there's
And
this
this year
one
theme is like planet versus plastic. So
there
yeah,
was this one page which I follow on Insta. So what they also do is now, like, so they're a sustainable startup, climate
okay.
startup, sustainable startup, whatever you call it. They tell people that okay, if you have any used cardboard boxes, just may like generally our e-commerce parcels come, please
Yeah.
send that to us, or they do a collection drive, and then every new product they send to their customers, they send in the used cartons or used boxes. So that's how they're also creating a loop with the packaging, like reusing the same packaging that was used before for some other order by some other e-commerce platform. And in fact, this could be a business idea for people to explore, that how can they sort of reduce this packaging ka footprint, tying
This is
up with all
wonderful.
these people.
This this actually reminds me of our latest. So we have this program called Young Entrepreneurs Awards,
Mm-hmm.
and every year we have this. This year also it will be on the theme Planet versus Plastic. But last year it was on sustainable fashion. And one kid came up with an idea. It's an idea-based challenge. He came up with an idea that the boxes that we receive in the sustainable in the fashion industry, why don't we create something out of it? Maybe
Right.
mannequins, or those boxes could be something that we always keep it in home. It could be turned into, let's say, a shoe box can be turned
Mm.
into a hanger, or a portrait or something like that. So that was a great idea. And just like that, we have also very recently announced influencers for the earth. It's a kind of a challenge that we are thinking that if they already have the hold of the public, and right now it's a very tough fight. The whole planet is, I mean, against the plastic, and it has to be because plastic is everywhere. You name it, you name the place, you name the human being, you name the species, and scientists have
I'll
found the
give you one
microplastic.
more instant. Like when you said na plastic is everywhere. So like whenever we visit our hill stations, somewhere or the other, it's a guilty pleasure of enjoying noodles there.
Yeah,
So, but whenever like you look beyond the hill, you would find a lot of these packets lying all around, and that's
a
a
new
very
hill.
Yeah, and that's a very common sight. So of course, like at some places they are started up with all these drives and everything. But can we make a business model where, and like there's this one organic store which I visited in Delhi recently, and they do ragi or millets ke noodles karte hain wo log. Of
Yes.
course, like the price range is expensive comparatively to the packaged noodles that come in, but of course the health benefits and everything. So I was just talking to someone that can possibly a startup do something where they could create a packaging free noodles which is healthier for people and also create a network within our hill stations. Can such localized businesses come up where this localized business provides some amount of incentive to the Maggie or people who are selling the Maggie, plus there is no waste being generated and you're serving a
Yeah.
healthy alternative to people where all these are
Amazing
made out
idea.
of milk. So the idea here is that whatever thing aligns with you, like for example you might be passionate about something, can you put your passion, create a plan, create a strategy, maybe get a team in place, if not a team in place, pitch your idea to someone or share your idea if someone else can execute it, maybe if you don't want to. But that's the idea, look for solutions everywhere around, like the way people look for blaming, look for solutions, look for
Yeah.
opportunities, because that will also provide a lot of people employment. And we always have to think about empowering people with the solutions we create.
That's wonderful. And I think with that statement, it's a wrap. Look for solutions around you instead of blaming
Right.
each other. Let's find solutions with each other because collaboration is the
Is
key.
the key.
And with that, thank you so much, Shweta, for joining us, taking time out for another podcast, which you are not hosting. The Network India is.
It's good to
And
be on the other side.
wonderful. And for the audience, the podcasts are being released every Friday. So until next time, keep it green, keep it clean, and remember, every day is Earth Day.